Hi, friends.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to episode 1, part 3 of our story. I am Miss Steffi, and I'm your host.
And
this
I'm
is
Mei,
my co-host.
Mm-hmm.
And hi, are you excited to be here?
Super excited as always.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I'm
Okay.
excited to talk about what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, amazing. So let's do a quick recap.
Yeah.
So what we saw in last episode, we recapped 2015 to 2019 in 35 minutes. We took you all over the place with us in our travel adventures, and we left you in a very cold winter, February, in downtown Seattle, where we started to play around with the idea of take 3.
Mm-hmm. Dun, dun, dun.
So, oh my God, the veggie lady, the veggie people are outside. Hopefully you can't hear that. Okay, so the start of February 2019.
Wait. Welcome to Ecuador. I think that was a very Ecuador moment. You just you're doing your own thing, and you all of a sudden you hear outside, what do they say?
You can never understand them because it's like, venga vecina, venga las verduras, venga el gas, venga la refrigeradora, compra refrigeradora, cocina vieja.
Refrigeradora viejo.
Yeah.
So hilarious.
Quick tangent.
Okay, let's get back to this.
Okay, so this is today, right now. Close your eyes and think that we are in 2019. It's the start of February, and we have just landed in Seattle. Seattle was the trip that we had planned since December of 2018. And when we actually went to it, we happened to have had the conversation about, hey, I think I want to leave New York. So when we went to Seattle, it had suddenly the trip objective had changed. It's such us, trip objectives.
What is the purpose of this trip?
So the purpose of the trip had changed because we wanted to see, could we actually maybe travel for a living? How could this feel like? Or could we be freelancers? Could we leave New York?
Or how does it feel to live outside of New York? I think that was a big challenge.
Yeah.
And envisioning that we were not returning to New York and that this was going to be our life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were like, okay, so it's our time to pretend that we're not getting back to New York.
Absolutely.
So let's take them just a little bit deeper into what it looked like in Seattle. We do have a blog post about this and a few posts, but I think it was one of my most favorite trips that we've done because it was this sudden snowstorm that closed the whole city. So we only really had 4 days to explore Seattle because 8 out of those 12 days that we were there, we were actually inside the apartment.
It was pretty memorable, to say the least. We did not imagine that was going to happen, and that we would spend 8 out of the 12 days inside. But it kind of worked out really well for us because we were really able to sit down in our discomfort and envision living this life as freelancers, and all the work that we put into coming up with the idea and everything was beautiful.
Yeah, and the actual trip itself, when in those 4 days when we were there, we were like, okay, we need to sacarle el jugo.
Yes, that's my new word,
there's
guys.
this thing that
Sacarle el jugo.
Exactly, sacarle el jugo. It's just take out all the juice in that lemon. When life gives you lemon, make that lemonade, but make sure you really squeeze.
Get the most
lemons.
out of it.
Yeah, get the most out of it. So in those 4 days, we walked everywhere because, as you guys know, in the last episode, we told you that we never really get a car because we didn't have a license. So we walked everywhere, and we
every
had
single
Guillermo
day.
with it. Yeah, we had Guillermo with us, and we went on the most beautiful treks. What we loved about Seattle was and Portland was how easy it was to go from the city to the outside. We
from urban to rural.
Yeah, and to the forest. It was you would go into the most beautiful forest, and there was that sandy beach area with the What is that thing?
Lighthouse.
The lighthouse.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was such a pretty day.
It was beautiful.
We trekked through the whole forest and ended up watching the sunset at the most beautiful beach and lighthouse, and we have the cutest pictures.
It was
we're
pretty.
gonna put them here.
It was a picturesque Kodak
Oh,
Instagram moment for
it
sure.
was so beautiful and it was so memorable because in those forest walks we were having the most meaningful conversations because we were really talking about like our objective was to quit New
Mhm.
York. So it wasn't like in those trips we were talking about anything else than that.
Mhm.
Like we really took it very seriously and we
Yeah.
were like, okay, so what does life look like? What do you envision? When do you want to have kids? When do you want to get married? Um, you know, what do you
Mhm.
love about your job? What do you hate about your job? You
Mhm.
know, it was you telling me like you weren't ready to make
Yeah.
that jump.
Yeah, it was tough. I knew that the whole trip was every day we were kind of peeling back the onion a little bit, layer by layer, because as you said, I wasn't quite ready to leave New York yet. I was comfortable, I was getting paid okay, like pretty good for my level, and I loved my coworkers, so I it didn't cross my mind to leave New York at that time.
Yeah.
So when you did have that conversation with me, it really put a lot of things into perspective, like life by myself, life with you,
Mhm.
the fact that we worked so hard to get this visa,
Yeah.
and then the typical next step would be to renew.
Yeah.
So the fact that we would be doing something totally out of our comfort zone,
Yeah.
which is to go into the unknown, see if this thing would work, and leave our home in New York and
Mhm.
lose our visas.
Yeah.
That was a lot to take in.
And move Guillermo. I
And
think the biggest
yeah.
thing was like I think if we were just the two of us, maybe we would have found like a way.
Mhm.
But because we had like a dog child,
Yeah.
you know, like it was like I think it added an elevated like pressure,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and I think it cut a lot of our options out in terms
Yeah.
of where we were thinking of going.
Yeah.
We I have family in Hong Kong, so I was like maybe we can go to Hong Kong, but we can't take Guillermo to Hong Kong
Yeah.
unless we're okay with him being quarantined for 45 days.
Yeah.
I don't
And
think
in
we
those
were.
times quarantine didn't mean what it means
No,
now.
exactly. We didn't want to put him through that, so
Yeah.
we looked at our options, and yeah, that's
Yeah, but the
Ecuador.
whole trip, like the
Mhm.
whole trip, we had these meaningful
Yeah.
conversations. We had these, these times of anguish of not knowing when was it going to be like a time where I had to kind of like make Meijun tell me, hey, like yes, I'm gonna quit New York with you.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how I felt the whole trip. It was kind of like it was like I could breathe, but I also like couldn't breathe at the
You
same
were
time.
holding your breath for my
Yeah,
answer,
yeah,
and that was I can like envision it now, like how tough that must have been for you too.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, that was yeah. I'm glad we went on that trip and had those conversations and
yeah,
kind of tried our best to be vulnerable with each other and
yeah.
what we were feeling, and knowing that we support each other,
Mhm,
either whatever we decided, right?
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, it was a really tough time, and it was also why it made it so beautiful because I had been in in a long distance relationship before, and I had that one last trip we took together.
Mhm.
That was the last trip we ever took as a couple, and I was kind of envisioning this like shit like this could be my one last trip with Meijun. Like
Right.
if he never wants me to, like if he doesn't want to move out of New York with me,
Mhm.
you know, or if I don't tough it out and stay in New York.
Yeah,
I
and I
don't know.
wouldn't want you to do that.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, I don't think that was an option for
but
that. I would want you to consider.
yeah, tell me
Yeah,
more.
because when we had that conversation, it was a long 2-3 hour conversation of, how hard it was for you to be in New York
Yeah.
in that state that you were in,
Mhm.
and how unfulfilled everything was for
Mhm.
you. So
Unfulfilling. Everything was.
unfulfilling. Yeah. Pardon. Sorry.
Mm.
Um. So I wouldn't want you to have to stick it out because of me. I'm sure whatever we decided, like if it was different, we would have like supported each other.
Yeah, and what's
Yeah.
crazy now is that looking back, it's like we were kind of doing the same thing that we were doing when our lottery visa was happening. It
Yeah.
was still kind of this weird limbo
Yeah.
where you live on this like maybe there's many options. We are also the kind of people, let me just say, like, we are the type of people that are always saying there are multiple options. I
Mhm.
think there are very little time where we as a couple have said, okay, that is the one option we have and there's no other choice.
Mhm.
Like, even I think when we get the most angry with each other or getting fights or whatever, we always know that, we can't ask for help, that
Mhm.
we can get out of this, that there
Yeah.
is another option, that
Mm.
there is another side of this,
Yeah.
Like, I think we've always been, I guess, that half full kind of people,
Mhm.
and be that for each other as well when we
Yeah.
each other gets negative. So I guess kind of this trip was for me to also pitch you a little bit and have you dream with me. And
Mhm.
that's something I asked you a lot. And it was, can you just please just dream with me? Just that was like what I asked him for. That was like the one thing I asked for Seattle was for him to let dreams happen.
Mhm.
And that was something that scared you a lot. And that was one of the podcasts that we listened to together. There was a Rachel and Dave Hollis who are now divorced. Wah wah wah.
Mhm.
But they talked about what when your partner's dreams scare you.
Mhm.
So yeah, can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, how did it feel when your partner's dreams, my dreams, scared you or didn't seem to be fit with you? Maybe.
Mhm. Um, I think a lot of people when they hear someone else's ideas or dreams, when it hits them by surprise or feels like it's all of a sudden, um, something happens in the prefrontal cortex where you just kind of freeze up and you don't know what to say. Um,
Oh yes, I heard this. We
yeah,
heard this in the podcast.
yeah. You
Okay.
you kind of can't imagine because you're kind of in this mode of
Because
like,
the blood moves from
yeah.
your prefrontal cortex to the back. We're
Uh-huh.
gonna do a whole episode on
We
this.
will, we will. But something happened and I just didn't know. I didn't want to say anything to crush your dreams. I didn't want to say anything to tell you that I don't want to come. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to tell you something that to make you feel rejected.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to say anything that I wasn't feeling or
Mm-hmm.
understand what I was feeling about
Because
this
at those
decision.
times you weren't as like I think now you're more like mentally aware of what this
Yeah,
means.
and
Everything you're
emotionally
saying.
aware. Yeah.
Exactly. You're more emotionally aware. I think at that moment you're just like
Yeah.
froze maybe.
Yeah, I definitely froze because I tend to hate disappointing people. So that was one of those situations where it's like, this is more than just disappointing or not disappointing. This
Like
is
literally.
life, This, what I'm going to say is going to determine where I'm going to go in life,
Yeah.
you know? So it was huge. And I was like, I didn't know how to like
Yeah.
deal with that. So this trip we talked about it. Like you told me, like, you don't have to tell me anything
Mm-hmm.
now. Let's just take it a day at a time and see
Mm-hmm.
how we feel in Seattle. Let's envision our lives there and see, dream with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. And as each day passed, I started realizing that, you know, maybe I should do this. Maybe I want
Yeah.
to do
And,
this.
and something that we did, sorry to cut you, was we went and experienced a lot of new things. Like we were very meaningful at experiencing new things, and we were also meaningful at researching. Like it wasn't that we were all just vacationing. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were looking at, expanding our bubbles. Like it wasn't just me pitching you or you pitching yourself. It was us really taking this as a serious project,
Mm-hmm.
that required research. Like we looked at so many design studios. We have a 10-minute video recording actually of us just talking about we didn't want to work
Yeah,
for
all the
and
planning.
what were
Yeah.
our values and why would we want to get in a business together if it's so hard and it crashes
Mm-hmm.
relationships.
What do we want to work on? What do we don't want to work on? And
Yeah.
all those things, we took that time in the Snowmageddon in Seattle in our Airbnb to write all these things down and talk to each other about it and just put everything on the table.
Yeah.
As Steffi said, we have this whole thing recorded in February 2019, and we looked back at it the other day, and it was a breath of fresh air. We're like, wow, we can't believe this
Crazy.
was just almost 2 years ago, or
It's
over
a
two
I'm
years
seeing
ago.
a whole different human being on that camera.
Literally, I'm like, wow, I was so young,
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
from a growth standpoint.
Yeah.
Being in New York where we were, we felt like we were kind of stagnant as creatives, and in turn that made us kind of stagnant as human beings as well,
Yeah.
and as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was it was such a fun experience
Yeah.
going there, and as you said, do all the research and treat our trip as an MVP.
We went to the library.
Yeah,
Like,
we literally went to the library to do research.
yeah, we would walk in the cold. We didn't have a jacket for Guillermo because we didn't think it was going to snow. There was no snow planned. And we had no jackets for Guillermo. We had to go find one. We had all the restaurants were closed, so there was like no food. There was only like a few places in Pike Place Market and like this one poke place. There was, and like the days that were open that there was no snow, we were like be rampant. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
we researched everything for like, we were cocooned for like 24 hours. Let us like just run out.
And get something to
Yeah,
eat.
and we would like, we had the most amazing pho. We went to it was so cold.
Yeah.
So like there was nobody out in the streets.
Uh-huh.
And we had the most amazing pho. We had we went to the Asian grocery store.
Yes, that was our
it was
one of my
so
favorite
good.
spots.
And you had congee.
I had kanji.
And I had the spam nigiri thing, the Hawaiian. It was so good, and we got Guillermo a little kimono.
Because it was around Chinese New Year.
It was Chinese New Year,
Yeah.
yeah. And we saw our friend Julia, who she has a baby
Mhm.
now. And yeah, it was just the most amazing trip. So
Yeah.
we're gonna be here forever. We're like 16 minutes in, but so I guess number one question that I wanted to ask you is, why the name Take Three? Like, why? How did we end up there? Kind of tell us a little bit about that naming process. I guess there's so many people are always in their naming journeys. Tell us a little bit about that naming process
Yeah.
for us.
Like everything, the naming of a brand or a business is one of the hardest things. And for us, we had zero idea. We just knew that we knew aspects of us. We knew who we were, and we did the research. We did the research into the existing names and studios, and names that we thought was inspirational and the direction we want to go in terms of the name. We asked our friends to send us 3 words or a sentence
Oh yeah.
that helps them describe who we are.
Yeah.
What do they think of when they think of Meijun and Steffi?
We should actually look up putting the prompt that we told our friends in the
Mhm.
show notes.
Oh yeah.
I'll put that in the show notes.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
And we were just looking at what's out there, and then after we've done all the research, we just started throwing names, started throwing names out there and writing everything down. We have all of this digitally documented in a Google Doc, and we still have that, and it's always great to look back at and see where we started from, all the crazy names and funny names that we came up with.
Yeah. Even now when we're doing
Yeah.
our bio, we look back at those documents when we want to
100%.
do an update.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, you're always looking for designers to put together your brand Bible, but it's not up to designers to put together your brand Bible. Like, your brand Bible, you should know it by heart. Like, it should
Mhm.
be your values. It should be what you stand for. It should be what you want for the world, what you
Mhm.
want from the world. It should
Yeah.
be a whole research of everything. So we had so many bad names. Like, we had one that was like Dos Guaguas y un Perro. we had like so many bad
We
names.
had one that was like ... because it's
Oh, I see.
because 3 dots.
Three
It's
dots.
3 of
It's like
us
three
kind
of
of thing.
us. Oh, it was so bad. Like,
Uh,
literally, like, there's so many bad names, but we came up with Take Three because Take Three was our third take on a meaningful creative life.
Mhm.
Because we had met in college, we had worked together, and now we were taking this new leap of faith together.
Mhm.
It's also the 3 of us, so it's Meijun, me, Steffi, and Guillermo, and it's also the 3 of us when you work with us. So it's
Mhm.
Meijun, me, and you, the client, and now you, the student.
Yeah.
But yeah, now it has this really beautiful meaning, and I'm really happy we went with Take Three Studio.
100%.
And when we found the name, we sent it to all of our friends. We were like, "What do you guys think?
Uh-huh.
How do you guys think this fits us?" Like,
It's the getting feedback and
feedback,
user
yeah.
quote unquote user testing,
Yeah.
right? User testing.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's it was such a beautiful exploration, because we literally took everything that we wrote down, all the research that we did, and we did the word association game. Basically,
Oh
write out
yeah.
every single word that has anything to do with who you are.
And tell me why we chose Take Three Studio.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of it being like why did we choose like studio? Because I don't think it
Uh-huh.
was a very meaningful reason.
I I hope I don't get this answer wrong, but for me, as I'm thinking back now, I think we went with studio because we didn't want to be. We were not an agency.
Yeah.
We were not like a company. You
Yeah.
know, we weren't anything corporate.
Yeah.
So we thought studio had the flexibility to be like a freelance
Yeah.
duo
Yeah.
kind of thing. You
And I
know.
feel like studio always feels like an art studio, like
Yeah.
a place where you come and make things.
Exactly.
Or like the photo shoot studio. I
Mhm.
don't know the right answer either. I don't
Me
know.
either. Yeah.
I remember that there was like a whole reasoning why. I'm pretty sure there was, but
Mhm.
I think now looking back, it really fits as well because as we build the Take Three like internal brand, now looking at Steffi and Maisie in 2021, as we build the internal brand, it's really fun to see how flexible our brand can be
Mhm.
because it is Take Three Studio.
Yeah.
Because anything else that we can create under this is like studio
Mhm.
because we're like a studio, you
Mhm.
know? We're creators.
Absolutely.
I love that. So that's why we named it Take Three.
It took a long time.
It took a
guys.
very long time. A lot of time, a lot of questioning, a lot of everything. So they were leaving Seattle. This was like around mid-February or so. And we actually, agreed that we were going to take this step together.
Mhm.
You kind of came through.
I came out of my shell, and as the days passed and closer towards the end of the trip, I came to a realization that yes, I think this is what I want to do. I want to go into the unknown, get out of my comfort zone and do this, even though I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome
Yeah.
about the fact that am I even good enough to start my own freelance studio with my girlfriend.
Do I have enough expertise?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So yeah, that
Yeah, it
that
was
happened,
scary.
and we
I
decided,
think, and I think when we were first telling people, we really were thinking, yeah, we're gonna go freelance, but we are going to travel first, and we're gonna create content, and we're
Mhm.
going to build Guillermo's brand, and we were gonna have all these traveling dreams, right? So, what happened next was the budget and the legal check, making sure we talked to a lawyer to know what was going to happen when we quit, if they could just fire us and they could just send us out of the United States, if when we put in our notice, like how much longer do we have until our visa gets canceled
Mhm.
basically. And yeah, it was all a little bit of that it was like a little bit frenetic, like frantic is the
Frantic,
word.
yeah.
It was a little bit frantic. We were looking at our budgets.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked to Francie.
Mhm.
Francie's
She's kind of
our
like advisor, kind of.
yeah.
Yeah, and
But tell him who she is.
so Francie.
Remember episode 1?
Yeah. So from episode 1, you should know, Francie was our admissions director.
Yeah.
She was the one that got us enough scholarship to go to Pratt upstate
Yeah.
in Utica, and
Exactly. She's
so
basically the reason we
she was
met.
the one. Yeah, she was the one that gave us a chance to even be here.
Yeah. Oh, it's so crazy. Then we told our parents that we were moving. So how and why did we decide on Ecuador? I'll keep this one kind of short because we're already 24 minutes in. But the reason why we chose Ecuador is because it was really easy for Guillermo to come in, number one. Number two, the currency was the same. So it was quite easy for us to just kind of move our lives here and kind of figure it out, not knowing what we really wanted to do.
Yeah.
We also had my family, so it was a little bit safer in case, everything falls apart.
Yeah, in case there was an SOS moment
Yeah.
where we needed, someone to help.
Exactly. And yeah, those were really the reasons. And it was really always going to be this home base where we could always keep traveling from.
Yeah.
Before COVID hit, of course. And it was going to be this nice, safe space where life was a lot cheaper than anywhere else we've lived. And like the cost of living, I mean.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why we chose Ecuador. People here are amazing, and
The weather is amazing.
the weather is great. Cuenca is beautiful. That's where we wanted to really live.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. And so yeah, that's why we chose Ecuador. So how do we start leaving New York City? Because
Oh my
like
god.
leaving New York is not one thing that you're like, oh yeah, chill. I'm just gonna like leave, you know?
Especially after 8 years or 9 years.
Yeah. How did we start leaving? Tell us.
I think the moment we decided to do it, it was like, oh my god, okay, this is real. Okay, so it just all started with us first and foremost having to leave our apartment because our lease was up.
Yes.
Yeah, our lease was up like, in March, right? And
like the end of February.
end of
So
February.
we came back from Seattle
and
and
we're like, okay,
we
what
were
do we
like,
do?
oh shit, we have 15 days to find an apartment and leave.
And that's why we had to decide that quickly too, whether
Yes.
I was gonna do it or not, because our lease was gonna
Yes.
our lease was up. So we had to decide.
My God, that's why.
So we had to decide whether, am I gonna like renew this lease or not? So we had to leave our apartment, and for some reason, coincidentally, angelically, Estefi had a friend.
I posted on Facebook.
Yeah, that we needed a
And-
place to stay.
And Juliana saw my post. Our friend Juliana saw my post. Her sister,
Yeah,
she
exactly.
sent it to her. Like she shared it. Her sister saw it, and Faye messaged me saying, "Hey, my boyfriend's actually moving out of his apartment because we're moving in together. And now they're engaged.
And we have 2 months lease left.
And they had 2 months lease left, so it was perfect.
It was perfect.
To when we needed to leave.
Exactly.
So we were like, yes, of course. And they literally he charged us
half the rent.
half the rent. So
Yeah.
it was like $1,350.
No, it was like $1,200.
$1,200
In the Upper East Side.
in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and we both shared that. So it was $600 each.
Yeah, that was
So-
gold. That was all we could have afforded at the time.
At the time, because
Yeah.
we were quitting our job, so we went into savings mode, and we are
Mhm.
frugal. Like
oh my god,
when
yeah.
we go into saving modes, we're frugal. Just like when we're not in saving mode, we're
Yeah.
frugal.
Yeah.
But
I'll eat
yeah.
that. I'll eat that Chinese food for the whole week.
literally, so it was Upper East Side, and we were living our best life, I would say. So when we were leaving our apartment, just super quickly, we sold everything.
Yeah.
Literally,
We had a
because
garage sale.
yeah, because we thought we didn't need anything. We were going to live in our car, basically.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we sold
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah,
and
we
then
literally
we
sold everything.
separated stuff for between the container and not the container, like the storage room and Main Street
Mhm.
and the Upper East Side apartment,
Mhm.
right?
We put all of our stuff away.
yeah, we put everything basically. Nothing that was 100% necessary. Like everything that was not 100% necessary got
Put into the
put into
storage.
storage.
We only needed our essentials.
So
And
we've kind of been living.
3 pairs of underwear.
Yeah, we've kind of been living from those essentials since.
Yeah,
We haven't really tapped into those boxes or anything that we brought.
that's true.
So, for the people who live here, I brought in a container as a plan retorno, as an immigrant. So we brought some of our stuff, we have our sketchbooks and our art books, but we really sold everything. So
Mhm.
we had the most amazing Main Street adventures when we were packing everything to come here, because we had quit our jobs and we were done. And I was running in Central Park, and we were living our best lives, but we'd also go to Main Street and have dim sum.
Oh yeah, and we forgot to mention that we gave our company the notice
Oh, yeah.
that we were leaving.
Yeah.
So you gave your notice. I believe it was April, the first week of April.
Yeah.
You gave and we did the whole budget to see what was feasible for us to do this.
Yeah, I basically
yeah.
called June one day, and I was like, okay, I was having a panic attack at work, and I was
Mhm.
like, how much money do I need to make in order to quit next week? And he said, this is how much. It was like $2,500 or something. He was like, this is the paycheck that you'll miss if you quit this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'll make that money. I don't give a fuck. I'm leaving right now.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. He's like, you do you as long as you make the money. And I was like, okay, cool. I found a freelance gig and I made the money.
You made the money. Exactly. That was awesome. And then for me, I was like, okay, I'll try to sustain one more paycheck.
Yeah.
So I kind of stuck it out for another 2 weeks after you, or a week.
Kudos to you. High five.
High five. And so that I could get that final paycheck to
Yeah.
save and to pay for the rent.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did our budget and then we gave our notice in April. So first
Yeah.
week of April for you,
Yeah.
and then mine was the third week of April.
Yeah.
So, we were done with our work and everyone was sad to see
Yeah.
us go. And but we were
But we were still going to be
excited.
there for 2 more months. So
Yeah.
we were still seeing them and all that stuff. So it wasn't that sad until our goodbye party.
Because they gave us 3 months to leave the country.
We had 3 months to leave the country and like
Mhm.
figure everything out. So we were living our best life. It was really a time of like finding ourselves. I was still going to therapy. I was grounding a lot. I was doing a lot better, I think, mentally. And we were excited. We were like
Mhm.
just like not thinking about it. Every day we would have like a 6 a.m. to like 12 p.m.
Yeah.
like 12 a.m. To-do list of everything
Mhm.
we had to do.
Every single day we had something to do.
Yeah, every single day.
There was so much paperwork. There was so much packing, getting the container situation resolved for us to for you to bring stuff back to Ecuador.
Yeah.
So we didn't really have that much flexibility to like
Mhm.
do anything, you know? Because ideally, when we were talking to Francie, she was
Mhm.
like, "This is an amazing thing for you guys. You know, enjoy your final month or two in America.
Yeah.
Go on trips that you never imagined yourself going on.
Yeah.
You know."
Yeah.
And we were trying to be frugal and save money, right?
Yeah.
But when after the fact, we were like, what are we gonna remember the $300 that we spend, you know, when in our deathbed?
Yeah.
Are we gonna remember the $300 that we spent, or are
Mm.
we gonna remember the trip that we went on for $300?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. So once we had made that decision, we really tried to make it our best and take it all in and ate the most amazing food, and we really kind of spoiled ourselves a little bit in that sense.
Yeah.
Because we were saving a little bit more money. But yeah, so we then moved to Ecuador, and May 31st is when we really started our flight to Ecuador, and June 1st is when we got to Ecuador.
June 1st,
So-
2019.
Yes. So we're in June 1st, 2019, and we're going to tell you how we started Take 3, what it starting looked like, starting over, the website, the branding, the money. We'll promise you we're going to do a full deep dive on Take 3 and all of the juicy details that you want to know, like our processes, how we got clients, our pricing, the things we learned, all of those like really nitty gritty details. We'll do it in another episode because we're already at 32 minutes. I knew this was going to be our longest episode, but so we're going to kind of try to be as concise as possible because we're going to do a whole episode on this. Okay? So Mingjun, let's do rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Okay,
So,
go.
how do we start Take 3? That's such a big question.
That's such a big question. Okay, do you have another half an hour? Honestly, when we got here, we promised ourselves to take the first 2 weeks just to like decompress, kind of re-find our balance
Yeah.
in being a different country. Because in New York it was just all hustle and bustle on go all the time. So we took the first 2 weeks to kind of relax and find our footing, and then we were like, okay, let's do this.
A little bit more than 2 weeks.
Oh, maybe it was
Because
more.
because we went on a road trip with my parents.
You are right. Yeah.
We went to Cuenca, we went to El Cajas, and then we came back.
I guess it felt like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
but it was longer. It was
It was
probably
like
like
a month, yeah.
a month or so. Yeah.
So when did we, because we then launched Take 3, the website, take3studio.com.
Yeah. Okay. So
July
we'll get into
19.
that. But
Exactly.
before we even got to that, we thought that all we needed was a website.
Yeah.
Because we already had the name, blah blah blah. So we thought, okay, let's get started on this website.
Yeah.
3 days passed, and we were so stuck. We had no idea what we were doing.
I sat down and I started
You're
making a website, and I was like, what is
are we
this?
doing? Yeah, what is this website for? And then we decided to, okay, let's go analog. Let's put away all of our computers, everything. We don't need that right now. Let's refocus again. Like, look at the notes that we took in Seattle, see what inspires us. What do we feel like right now? You know, what do we start over? Like, write everything on paper. So we grabbed rolls and rolls of paper, put it all around our house,
Like
over
big
the little
craft
apartment.
paper,
Yeah.
not toilet paper.
No, not toilet paper. Like craft paper
And we
to
were
write
at my
on.
parents' house.
Yes, we were thankfully able to stay at your parents, the little back house that they had.
Yeah.
So we had our own space.
Yeah.
And then we started just writing everything down. Like, what is Take 3? What do we want to do? Who we want to work for? I mean, client wise.
Who are we not working for?
Exactly. What are the type of projects we're envisioning?
Yeah.
And then from all of
Exactly.
that planning.
We literally sat down
Yeah.
and we said, okay, what kind of project do you not want to do?
Yeah.
Vision was like, I don't want to do emails. I don't want to do banners. I don't want, like, even the most mundane things, like, I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be doing that. Like, all of those things we wrote down and we were like, okay, that we have to make sure we cannot, like,
Absolutely.
represent or showcase or anything like that in our portfolio, in our website, because this is how then I took all of this information after we had really put it all down in terms of like all of our words or concepts and our ideas, and then I created a site map. So then I was like, okay, so based on what we want to do, clearly we need a services page, we need a portfolio page. And you have to remember, like, I was so young when I was doing this. Even then, like, everything that I was doing I had learned at work, right? It wasn't until now, like, now I know a lot more, I think, because we're in the ground
trenches.
doing in the trenches, and I've studied more and I put more time to educate myself, and I really hustle in order to get better. But when we first started, guys, like,
it was all just winging it,
we were winging it. Yeah. And we were just putting a bet on ourselves. And the website, we chose Squarespace. We'll tell you everything about why we chose Squarespace in that episode, but we chose Squarespace and it was the most amazing decision we ever did, because it's made our website building so easy and sustainable, and our growth so sustainable. This was like the 5th Squarespace website I was building in my life. So it wasn't like I was a professional.
Yeah, that was interesting. So, like, going back to the question of, how did we even start Take 3? We just knew, like, there are a lot of unknowns for us. The only thing that we knew was that we needed this website to be good, that represents who we are, what we do, and showcase the pieces of our portfolio that on projects that we want to work on.
And our joint portfolio. A big decision that we made was taking everything that we had created together at both of our agencies, making sure that we gave them the proper credit where credit was due, and giving our team credit. And then we also took projects from our college experience or freelance projects that we had done and put them into the website. So we were super transparent in, we haven't done it all. This is what we've done in our experience, and this is what we want to do. This is why we are, redoing this. This is what is meaningful to us. This is what our values were and are. And we chose the colors that we thought were the most beautiful from this really pretty flower picture. I don't know if you remember. And that's how I chose the purple and that neon yellow. We knew that we wanted it to be something really bright.
Something edgy,
because we knew that we wanted to use black and white to keep it like as like versatile and as blank canvas as possible as we grew. Because I knew I wanted to create a brand that was super versatile, because I knew for a fact that as a designer I was going to want to redo something in 3 months.
Of course,
So I wanted to make sure I had at least like my black, my white, and my accent colors, and make sure that the contrast was enough. Again, always making sure that the contrast was accessible in everything we did. And we just kind of went for it, and we didn't look back, and we made a checklist and we did it. We launched our website, we launched our branding. We didn't really have a proper logo or anything. We're like, if we stand here waiting for the perfect logo to be done by us when we are not even sure about what this business is, then we're going to never launch. So let's launch our minimum viable product. That was our website, and that's what we were doing, and that's what we focused on.
That's what we teach our students all the time as well in Take 3 Uni, is that you don't need to have a full-on branding to start a business and to test out the market to see if it's going to be successful or not, to see if the audience is going to be receptive to it. Once you do prove that concept and you're making some kind of money, some kind of income, then you can invest in branding to grow and discover and get discovered by other people. But it all starts with an MVP, a minimum 100%. Viable product, so that's what we did. And our minimum viable product was our website. That was our way of showcasing our work and getting clients.
100%. And so how much money did we start?
Okay, so
I'm Adrian from finance.
I'm Adrian from billing. So we were able to each put in $1,000
as investment
into our company.
Or Shark Tank.
Or studio, not company.
It's a company.
Or studio company. And we had a savings that was, ever since we started dating, we started saving bits and pieces here and there.
For
Sometimes
travel
we
money.
add more, for travel, for dates, for, Guillermo emergency, if anything. And we were able to save a good amount of money. So in total, we were able to start Take 3 Studio with $4,761.
And that was our savings from our 4 years of dating, plus the 2,000 that we did as an investment into our future.
And all of that went into Take 3 Studio for the programs that we needed, the apps that we needed, everything from
the website
fee, all those expenses, the scheduling. So it was
the email,
everything. So
everything costs money, guys. When you start freelance business, everything costs money. So if we were to give you one tip just to wrap up this part of like starting Take 3, to give you a little bit of like the climax, which is closer to where we are now. So the one tip is have a savings, have some sort of cushion where you can fall. So in case you ever want to just quit while you're ahead, or if you want to, do something different, you have that extra cushion. Or if some things go wrong and you don't get clients, have that extra cushion so that you can still have food, have a shelter, and have some sense of security, because it's really, really, really painful and a hard road ahead. And having a cushion of financial security and financial freedom was really something we are thankful of.
100%.
Yeah. So now into the climax. January, February, April, May of 2020. Okay. Still 1 year to go. This is when we moved out of my parents' house and we moved into Airbnbs. So tell people a little bit of that.
Yeah, so by that time, it's been like almost 6 months, actually 5 months now, and luckily we were able to take on a few branding projects and some Squarespace projects as well. So we were able to save enough money and budget to move out of your parents' humble abode.
Yes.
And that was something that we needed as well, to kind of give ourselves that proverbial kick in the butt to really get ourselves going again and push ourselves even harder.
Yeah.
And get that freedom and our own independence. So we had enough money, we budgeted, and we're like, okay, I think January 2020, we can start going to stay in Airbnbs on a monthly basis in different cities, different areas, so that we can do a little bit of that traveling and exploring that we promised ourselves.
As we were still getting your license and we were still getting some last minute paperwork together, we just still wanted to just get kind of that traveling experience going, even if it was still inside the city. So we were in these Airbnbs and COVID hit, and we've been here since COVID hit.
Yeah, this is our third Airbnb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at around, I would say February is when we moved in. At the end of February is when we moved into his apartment. Mid-March is when COVID hit. We basically took a break all of March into April, I would say, a little bit, because, everybody was in like the first 40 days making bread and stuff. So we kind of were a little bit slow to respond, and my grandpa had just passed, and it was kind of like a whole moment. So in April is when things started to get a little bit more quote unquote creative. We launched Take 3 Vitamins because I really wanted to launch this podcast. And I didn't
a year
know
ago.
And I didn't know if people would care or if people would listen, or if this was something that I had energy for. So we decided to create Take 3 Vitamins, which was our IGTV series where we give you creative advice in 5, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and we pick a topic and we give you advice on that specific topic. And that was the first time that we kind of started, our account started to grow and our brand started to grow. When we moved out of my parents' house, we started to meet people. We started to get ourselves on stories and sharing more of who we were and our values and the content that we like to create and our opinions. So that's really when Take 3 started to grow a little bit more. and we stopped blogging as much, even though we were still trying to do blogs. So because we were inside the house, we were juggling around 15 creative projects on Take Through Studio. By the time August hit and July, we were literally taking turns to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like being back in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it brought us back to college days where we would, basically pull all-nighters to finish specific projects. So we did commit to a lot of things during that time because we felt like we needed to.
Yeah, and we were doing great at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were doing amazing.
Yeah.
We were running fast towards burnout, but we were doing great.
Absolutely. We're the type of people that once we take something on, we'll get it done.
Yeah.
But like just coincidentally during that time we each took on so many separate things as well on top of the Take Through Studio and all that stuff.
So it was a really we were really running fast towards burnout. And in November 2020 I called it the emergency landing on my notes, because that's really when we did an emergency landing. We were burnt out, we were done, and we went to Samia Lodge in Cotacachi. I mean, in Cotacachi, in before Taballo, in Ibarra, in Lagunas de Mojanda. We went to Samia Lodge and we disappeared. We deleted our Instagrams and we just cocooned together. We slept on the floor at Samia Lodge for 1 whole week. And then we saw my parents. We went to Cayambe. It was Christmas. We took December off. And all of it, pretty much we spent November through March, basically March of 2021, guys. We basically spent it off. Yeah. Because we were so burnt out.
Yeah. It was 100% needed for our own health and mental state. As you said, going back to just really quickly to the emergency landing, I was personally, like you can tell, I was completely out of it. I was like, Estefi, do not talk to me about any new ideas. Do not mention anything to me. I don't want to hear about no new projects. Nothing. I cannot hold in anything else.
And this was the time that everybody and their mother was launching their course.
Oh my God.
So you also had the imposter syndrome and everybody
100%.
Yelling at you on Instagram telling you make a course because you can make a course.
And I had my own guilt. It felt like peer pressure to keep up and be like, oh my God, we have so much stuff to teach people. Like, should we make it into this thing, like a webinar or whatever? And then it just did not do us any good seeing all of that. But and then fast forward to, basically
March of 2021.
March 2021.
But tell them what we did just super quickly. The theme of January was Dynasty Warriors.
Oh yeah. So
the theme of February was cooking overcooked.
So we
started therapy. We also started couples therapy in November.
Yes, that's true.
So in November, when we decided to just take a vacation, our therapist was like, you guys need a vacation, go. Or is that when we started therapy right after Samia Lodge? Whatever, something like that. The point is we started couples therapy. We were barely alive at that point.
Yeah.
And
it is one of the best investments of our lives.
The best.
Especially now for couples who live together, see each other 24/7.
Yeah.
And we work together as well. So we needed someone else to help us drive that bus.
Yeah.
Because we were starting to be very critical of each other and not really showing up for each other as we should
100%.
Because we're just getting exhausted. It was hard for us to be there for ourselves.
We were getting in fights.
Yeah.
It was dark.
It was.
It was dark. We were tired. We were exhausted. We were still exhausted, but it was different. It was a dark time. We were burnt out, and we're still grieving, and we're still in our own process. And through November, through March, in January, it was Dynasty Warriors. We played video games because my parents gave us this TV that was broken. That they were like, if you guys pay for the repair, you guys can keep it. So we're like, fuck yeah, we're gonna pay for the repair. So we got this
65-inch TV.
Yeah, guys. So this really cool TV. It has some wonky shit in the corner, but it's still really nice. So we played Dynasty Warriors, which is just saving the emperor and killing a bunch of people.
Okay, it's cooler than that. Come on. Okay, but we
it's
don't need
Chinese
to go into
dynasties
details.
and stuff, but it's really cool. And then we played Overcooked, which we became our therapy
video game.
Video game.
If you're a couple and you like video games, we highly recommend Overcooked.
because it'll get you in a fight, but you are playing, so you're kind of getting it all out, and it's in a controlled
And
situation.
you're working towards one goal, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Sophia said that it's really hard in couples, so I think just some people can do this. I think this is maybe a
like
talent we have.
Maybe it's like couples training.
Yeah. So we told our therapist we recommended it for his clients. Whatever.
He
We're
cracked
getting
up.
on a tangent, but
Yeah.
so yeah, and then in March you started playing FIFA, and then whatever. So we haven't seen each other since. Just kidding. You guys hear me?
FIFA's my number one love right now. Just kidding.
So yeah, and we basically realized that we are building a lifestyle. We're not just building a business. That we're here for the long run. Just like we tell our students, there would be no Take 3 without Major and Steffi. And we had to take care of ourselves. So in March, until March we took a pause, and we've since
From
been
client
working. From client work, we've been working with Take 3 Uni because, side note, we also created another business while creating Take 3 Studio, but we'll get into that in the Take 3 Studio episode. So, yeah, we still work with our students, and we only take on a few projects, and that's given us financial freedom and mental health freedom.
Yeah, and really living by the saying that time is money.
Yeah.
For us, time is so important.
Yeah.
For us to have our own space, or time for us to go on dates, time for us to watch shows together. All that stuff is so valuable.
Yeah.
And we don't really take that into consideration sometimes.
And we have the privilege right now of being in a place where we're comfortable and having our dog with us, and we don't really have kids or debt or anything, and we're really thankful and grateful. But okay, so really it's been a whirlwind, you guys. This is our longest episode, and I don't think there's a lot of cutting here. So thank you so much for listening to us. I just want to end with one small question. I know that you guys are probably wondering, so like, how are you guys now? We're not in March, we're actually in June. So how are you, Major?
Wow, such a simple yet thought-provoking question. I think right now, in this very moment, I am so proud of us, how far we've come. I am so grateful for all the support that we've had. I am so happy that we pulled those all-nighters and worked so hard to get to this stage that we are at right now, June 2021, that we can just sit here and record this podcast and not have to worry, so much about other stuff. And I am just so relieved that you came to me that day, January 2019, to tell me that you wanted to leave New York, because I think that was the best decision that we could have ever made at that time, not just for our relationship, but for our careers, for us personally, for us being human beings, and just two average creatives that can continue to learn and grow because we made that leap, And I'm just like, those are all the feelings that I have right now. So that's how I feel right now, answering your question.
How are you, Steffi?
How are you, Steffi?
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. Yeah, I think right now in this moment I feel good. I feel thankful, and I feel proud of myself for believing that I could make this podcast. Proud that we had therapy and that we have therapy, because without therapy I wouldn't have probably made this leap to make this podcast. And some days are tougher and some days are better. And I think as a society we have this like weird tendency to always just want to hear good things from people. But sometimes, a lot of the times, I think this is a fact. We're human. So we're always never perfect.
Absolutely.
So, life is complex, and I'm happy to be alive, Meijun. I'm happy to be alive.
That's amazing. Likewise.
Okay. Thank you guys for listening. You guys are the most amazing thing. And I'm going to quit this while I'm ahead before I start crying. So I love you guys.
She's tearing up, guys.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We also need someone to help us with a little music intro for our podcast. So I'll be reaching out and posting some announcements on our stories on Instagram on Take 3 Studio. If you guys have any comments, any thoughts, or anything that you want to do, please go on take3studio.com. You can find our blog post that is directly connected with this episode, and you can leave your comments there and we can have conversations there. And yeah, so check us out in the show notes on that blog post. You can find more pictures of us. It's going to be a visual diary of so many pictures of us from part 1 all the way to part 3, and we're also going to be sending out a newsletter to all our fans. Thank you guys for being here, and this journey is just getting started. So thank you for being here for Take 3 Talks. I'm your host Steffi, and I'm with me June.
Yeah, thank you guys. And last but not least, as Dave Chang says, don't forget to leave us a comment and a review on our iPod.
On our Apple Podcast, guys. Apple Podcast.
He says Apple iPod.
He just says Apple iPod reviews.
I love that. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Love you.